How are you?
Good. Super excited to have you join me today. So tell me a little bit about where you are in your business journey.
I guess you can kind of say I'm starting over. So I am a board certified case manager and I work in behavioral health with one-on-one clients as an independent contractor. But I am also a new podcast host on Mama's Morning Cup podcast and developing my coaching business to help overwhelmed mothers create the life they want while juggling families and careers like myself.
Awesome. And how would you describe yourself kind of at the start of your journey trying to launch this business?
Well, I guess you can say, when I first started class, it was about 2 years ago, a little bit over 2 years ago. I was in the planning stages of developing a home care agency, which was a brick and mortar agency. So I was also working as a case manager at that time too. Um, I had lacked time to attend outside business classes because I have a family. I have 4 children at home. And so, yeah, I'm a wife. Um, so I was challenged with how to create a business and then juggle the other things I have going on. And so 2 years after having a thriving business, COVID happened and it forced me to shut the doors of the agency. But of course, I didn't let this stop me of pursuing the knowledge that I have now of operating a business and taking things to the online space. So I dove back into class a few days per week.
Awesome. Yeah, I love watching your journey too, and then the challenges that you're facing and like I think it's really inspirational to other people who've had to make a lot of pivots and changes because of COVID
Mhm.
too. So, how did you originally find out about class? Because you've been in there for a while.
Yeah, originally I want to say I found Classy Career Girl on Pinterest. So this was, oh my gosh, like 4 or 5 years ago. And so I followed you on Pinterest and then I found the Facebook group and just I think I went over your website and your blog and got like the freebies and downloaded things. And at that time, I was working actually in corporate. So I was like, well, I'm not really ready to do anything, but I was like kind of following along with resume writing and things of that nature. Um, but then fast forward, I think it was Corporate Rescue Plan. That's what it was called before. And when I was ready to leave corporate and start my own thing, I signed up for class, well, Corporate Rescue Plan.
Awesome. And you talked about how time was a big challenge for you
Hmm.
as well. So, like, what were you thinking then when you move in? Like, were you worried you were going to have enough time to do it all?
Oh gosh, I was like, how am I going to do this? So yeah, time was definitely a factor, but I will say because I didn't have the time to go to in-person business classes, it was more beneficial for me to do the online classes with you and then take my time. And I love how class is laid out. So it's like I'm never behind. It's just one phase at a time and one module at a time. So it was a lot easier for me. And where I'm at with raising a family and like a husband here and like kids everywhere, it's just, it was a lot easier. So I really like appreciated the modules that you have and like the foundation up until scaling. So I think definitely time was on my side as far as doing class.
Awesome. So, what was your like first step when you joined?
Well, I think setting the foundation. So, I mean, I've learned so much so far, but I needed to learn like how can I grow a business with just setting that foundation of what do I want, who am I serving, creating that audience. So yeah, I went to the basics. Like I knew nothing, nothing at all, and so it was just laying the groundwork.
Yeah. And then you mentioned COVID came and you had to so you worked so hard. I've watched you. You're always posting, you're always working hard. And then
Yes.
COVID came and you had to like completely pivot and change everything. So tell us about how you stayed motivated to keep going after that happened.
Well, I definitely knew that I was not going to go back to corporate, where I am in my life right now. There's just I came too far to kind of go backwards, and nothing against people who want to work in the corporate world, but it wasn't for me. And so I just had to go back to the basics and kind of brainstorm like, what do I want? What's out there for me? And also, what I was doing in my brick and mortar was on the lines of coaching just a different population. So I knew, like, okay, I may not be working in person with people, but how can I go to the online space and still make a difference for someone else? So I definitely had to pivot. I went back to phase one and it's like,
Good.
okay, I'm going to start all over again and brainstorm what I could be doing, and then something that obviously I'm passionate about, but also like I am making money. Obviously, I want to make money and I have a family to take care of. So I have to like provide income. But I definitely knew that online was growing and there's just so much you can be doing. So I guess I just dipped my toes in it and here I am.
I love it. I love how you took your prior experience too and you figured out how you could use that online to continue to
Hmm.
grow your business online. And then I love how you went back to the beginning because so many this it's definitely one of my recommendations. There's no reason not to,
Hmm.
restart at the beginning. I do it myself too, right? Like sometimes you need to like remind yourself of the foundation, of the beginning, of just getting the basics figured out again too, and then it makes everything else so much easier too. So where are you now then, going through corporate rescue plan and with your business?
Well, technically, I'm in, before I had to start over, I was in like phase five, but now I am still in phase two of planning everything. Um, I have definitely found my audience, which is mothers who are overwhelmed again. And I am creating my brand. And since I had to start over, it's a whole different ball game of creating that brand. So that's what I'm doing with the podcast. And I'm also diving into Love Your Career formula a little bit so I can gain like, where am I now? Am I going to love this? Like getting those foundations of, okay, this is my career for the future. So I have to kind of dip my toes into both. I'm building a business, but yeah, I want to love what I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah. And so for our listeners that don't know, there are two programs inside of class, Corporate Rescue Plan and Love Your Career Formula. So Quinn is doing exactly what I teach, which is making sure that she's starting a business that she's actually going to love and enjoy because she's going to be more successful at it as well and just have way more fun too,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
When she's doing that career that she's loving. So I love that you're dipping your toes into the love your career formula too to make sure that you're going to enjoy and love your career. So what excites you about this potential career field you're starting now?
Well, I'm definitely excited that I am working with my peers now. So like as another a mother, I am working with other mothers and women who may feel that their life is not exactly over, but it's so dependent on their children. And I want to show them that it's not. I mean, look at me. I'm creating another business, I'm pivoting and I'm still providing for my family and setting that foundation for my children to see what I'm doing. So I think it's really exciting to bring other women along with me and then also kind of coaching them along in other areas of their life as well. Not developing a business, but it could be pursuing dreams, it could be just reaching their optimum wellness. So I'm just excited just to dive into working with peers and people who I can really relate to on that level.
Yeah, and I think I told you on a one of our coaching calls a while ago too of how we all admire I mean, you have 4 kids, right? So, like,
Yeah.
we're all admiring you. We all want your advice, everything you've learned, from being a mom too. So there's so much that you don't realize how much knowledge and experience that you have, and now Quinn's gonna be able to serve and help other people
Mhm.
with that experience that she has too, the good and the bad, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely. There's a lot of stories there.
Oh yeah, we you could probably talk for hours about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
So what do you think would have happened, and like what problems do you think you would have experienced if you hadn't followed the plan in class?
Oh gosh, if I would have never followed the plan you laid out, I would be all over the place. And I definitely, in the beginning, you recommend the book The One Thing by
Yes.
Gary Keller, which has become my favorite book, and I always go back to it because I need to focus on one thing at a time. I mean, it sounds like I'm doing a lot, but essentially, it's not a lot of things. I'm just laying that foundation of like what steps am I taking next to reach that big goal, which you teach. So, being a multi passionate person, if you didn't have the foundation laid out for me, I literally would be all over the place.
Because there was probably so many directions you wanted to go in the beginning.
Oh, yeah, there's so many different directions. And then, just knowing like if you say go online right now and try to get like free resources, like one's talking about branding over here. Branding is just like your fonts and your colors of your website. But no, branding is really like putting yourself out there, your messaging, your voice, your words, what you're using. I mean, there's so much, and you're teaching the foundation of branding. You're teaching us like in your website, the copy and how to create a blog post to captivate people, things of that nature, and not just the superficial things that I would find if I Googled it. So, and if I had not had this and been a member of class, I would have just said, oh, this is what I need to do, and still not gotten anywhere. So I think definitely class has benefited me as far as a business owner.
Yeah, and you just keep moving forward too, as well.
Mhm.
And like I feel like you must keep learning things new too, right? Like
Oh,
so
definitely.
you keep yeah, you're pivoting, you're changing, but you're also it's not like a 5-week course, right? Like you're continuing to learn as you go through. What are some things how is what you learned change as you go through?
Um, I would say, I mean, there's updates with everything. I think even now you're updating different resources in class. So, for example, there's oh, you just put out a new template, like how to send these emails, and that's changing. My messaging is changing, so I needed that tool. um, Definitely, I would say just the way that I have pivoted from one audience to another changed. So then I kind of need to know, like, how do I reach this new audience? And the community inside of class helps me with that as well because I can ask questions at any time. And your coaching calls now, and me being able to make the coaching calls, which I did last week.
Yes, I know.
Um,
I was like, we get to talk to you finally.
Yeah, I know, right? I always have questions, but I can never make it. So yeah, that's changed, and it changed my outlook of like I'm going straight to Anna in the community and asking questions. And so, I mean, there's so many changes within your program, and then also developing a whole new business, there's changes. So, I mean, that's the only constant thing is change. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. So tell me about the experience launching your podcast because I'm sure that was very scary to put that out there, and launch that podcast. How was it and how did you get over that fear?
Oh man. Well, originally, I was going to just dive into developing a course. Um, and then I realized since I didn't have the same audience, I had to grow a new audience. And so I kind of like start writing and blogging a lot. And so I was like, well, I really want to talk directly to women and to mothers. I don't want to just put it in a blog. I want to actually like my voice speak. And so I was like, well, I'm going to develop a podcast. So I basically had to learn how to do a podcast. I mean, I listen to podcasts all the time, like every single day. So I didn't know exactly what the steps were. And I think you have a resource, and I went outside resources too to learn how to develop one. And so the stories that I shared in the beginning, like my first couple of episodes, were very vulnerable and are my own personal journeys, but with a lot of convincing from my husband. He was like, well, it's your story, you have to put it out there. And so basically, I just put my story out there for the world. And when I put it out there and hit publish, women heard it and listened. And I received a lot of messages saying, hey, I didn't know this about you. And me too. I relate to you so much. And then here I am several episodes into it. And I feel like I'm growing as a person. My story is out there, but I'm also connecting with other women who are now sharing their stories too.
I love that. Yeah, you don't realize all the stories people have and that you have inside until you start
Mhm.
taking that action and moving forward as well. Awesome.
Yeah.
So where can people find out more about you, Quinn?
Sure. So of course my podcast is called Mama's Morning Cup, and it's streaming wherever podcasts are streaming. So like Apple, Spotify, iTunes, Google. And then also my website is actually quinnmenier.com. So it's QUINNMENIER.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Quinn. I'm super excited for you and can't wait to see all your future updates now as you go through phase 2 and on, right?
Yep. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Quinn.